Καλημέρα και από εμένα. Ευχαριστούμε καταρχήν πολύ που είστε μαζί μας στο σημερινό webinar, όπου θα μιλήσουμε για τις online απειλές, πώς μπορείτε να προστατεύσετε τους πελάτες σας από αυτές και πώς φυσικά οι λύσεις της Solarwinds θα μας βοηθήσουν στο να τα καταφέρουμε αυτό, ώστε να είναι οι πελάτες ασφαλείς και ικανοποιημένοι. Ονομάζομαι Νεφέλη Τζίκα, εργάζομαι στην Orthology ως Senior Sales Executive. Θα ξεκινήσω εγώ με μια σύντομη παρουσίαση των λύσεων της Solarwinds στα ελληνικά. Απλώς τα slides είναι στα αγγλικά, καθώς θέλαμε η ροή όλη της παρουσίασης να είναι στα αγγλικά, μιας και οι συνάδελφοι της Solarwinds φυσικά θα μιλήσουν στα αγγλικά και εκείνοι. Μετά λοιπόν από εμένα θα δούμε λίγα πράγματα τόσο σε εμπορικό όσο και σε τεχνικό κυρίως επίπεδο για το κομμάτι του Endpoint Detection και Response και στην ουσία δηλαδή θα μας δείξουν πώς στην πράξη λειτουργεί και πώς θα μας βοηθήσει να κρατήσουμε τους πελάτες μας ασφαλείς από τις διάφορες απειλές. Next slide, please, Francesco. Thank you. Η Solarwinds λοιπόν έχει δύο λύσεις monitoring, το Solarwinds Central που είναι διαθέσιμο on-premise και hosted και είναι σχεδιασμένο κυρίως για πελάτες που έχουν συγκεκριμένες ανάγκες όπως η αυτοματοποίηση και εναλλακτικά το Solarwinds MSP RMM, το οποίο είναι μια πλατφόρμα βασιζόμενη στο Software as a Service και αποτελεί, θα λέγαμε, την ιδανική λύση για τις εταιρείες που δουλεύουν ως Managed Service Providers. Και οι δύο λύσεις παρέχουν χαρακτηριστικά όπως αυτά που φαίνονται παρακάτω, δηλαδή Patch Management, Managed Antivirus, Backup and Recovery, Web Protection, Remote Access. Η βασική διαφορά, βέβαια, είναι ο τρόπος λειτουργίας των συγκεκριμένων χαρακτηριστικών. Υπάρχουν επίσης εργαλεία, τα οποία λειτουργούν είτε ως standalone, είτε μπορούν να ενσωματωθούν σε ένα εκ των δύο προϊόντων, όπως είναι το Solarwinds Backup, που έχει να κάνει με το κομμάτι του Backup και Disaster Recovery, το Solarwinds Mail Assure για το κομμάτι του Email Filtering και Archiving, το Take Control που αποτελεί μια εναλλακτική λύση Remote Access, το Risk Intelligence που είναι μια λύση οικονομικής ανάλυσης, θα λέγαμε, και δίνει μια εικόνα του τύπου και της αξίας των δεδομένων που υπάρχουν αποθηκευμένα στο δίκτυο, ο MSP Manager, όπου πρόκειται για ένα εργαλείο PSA και λύση ticketing, ώστε να καταχωρούνται τα αιτήματα της τεχνικής υποστήριξης των πελατών μας. Και τέλος, το Pass Portal και Documentation Management για τη διαχείριση των passwords και των αρχείων. Next, please. Ξεκινάμε λοιπόν με το N-Central, το οποίο βοηθά στον έλεγχο, στο customization και στην ασφάλεια του περιβάλλοντος του δικτύου μας. Όσον αφορά τον έλεγχο, next please Francesco, thank you. Όσον αφορά λοιπόν τον έλεγχο, μιλάμε για το κομμάτι της αυτόματης διαχείρισης των συσκευών που συνδέονται σε ένα δίκτυο. Αυτές μπορεί να έχουν πάνω τους Windows Operating System, macOS, Linux, iOS ή Android. Τον εντοπισμό των σημαντικών εφαρμογών που μπορεί να εγκατασταθούν στο δίκτυο με την είσοδο των συσκευών αυτών και την αυτόματη παρακολούθησή τους. Το κομμάτι του Patch Management, που μπορούμε να κάνουμε deploy στις συσκευές αυτές. Το κομμάτι των ειδοποιήσεων και το escalation των ειδοποιήσεων αυτών, ώστε να ενημερωνόμαστε για το τι συμβαίνει και να βάζουμε μία προτεραιότητα και μία σημαντικότητα σε αυτό το κομμάτι. Και τέλος, τη δυνατότητα του να έχουμε την εικόνα των Hyper-V και των ESX hosts, συμπεριλαμβανομένου του status του hardware, καθώς και των λεπτομεριών όσον αφορά τον guest συσκευών που υπάρχουν στο δίκτυο. Next, please. Όσον αφορά τώρα το κομμάτι του customization, αναφερόμαστε στη δυνατότητα να υπάρχει ένα custom monitoring για νέες εφαρμογές που μπαίνουν μέσα στο δίκτυό μας, με τη χρήση κάποιων templates που ήδη έχει το ίδιο το N-Central και όπως βλέπουμε εδώ είναι γύρω στα 150. Τα templates αυτά δίνουν τη δυνατότητα να μπορέσουμε customize σύμφωνα με τις ανάγκες μας, να οριοθετήσουμε και να πούμε τι είναι καλύτερο για το δίκτυό μας και πώς ειδοποιούμαστε για οποιαδήποτε αλλαγή μπορεί να συμβεί μέσα σε αυτό. Next, please. Όσον αφορά στο κομμάτι της ασφάλειας τώρα, υπάρχει ενσωματωμένο το antivirus, το Bit Defender, και φυσικά το κομμάτι του Risk Intelligence που αναφέραμε πριν. Υπάρχει δυνατότητα εντοπισμού ransomware, anti-phishing, firewall, η δυνατότητα να εντοπίζονται τα ευαίσθητα δεδομένα που μπορεί να υπάρχουν μέσα στο δίκτυο και φυσικά να γίνονται και κάποια scans που αφορούν το κομμάτι του PCI, ώστε να δούμε αν είμαστε συμμορφωμένοι με αυτό με τα πρότυπα τα οποία υπάρχουν και τα οποία πρέπει να ακολουθούμε κάθε φορά για την ασφάλεια του δικτύου μας και όχι μόνο. Next, please. Στη συνέχεια πάμε λοιπόν στο κομμάτι του RMM, που είπαμε ότι είναι η πλατφόρμα που χρησιμοποιείται κυρίως από τις εταιρείες που λειτουργούν ως Managed Service Providers και στην ουσία θέλουν να υπάρχει μία αυτοματοποίηση και μία ασφάλεια στο περιβάλλον του πελάτη τους. Next, Francesco, thank you. Το οποίο στην ουσία, η οποία πλατφόρμα αυτή δίνει τη δυνατότητα να μπορούμε να τρέχουμε την καθημερινότητά μας, τις δουλειές μας με τη χρήση της πλατφόρμας αυτή και να υπάρχει μία ευελιξία στο πώς εξυπηρετούμε τους πελάτες μας. Next. Όσον αφορά λοιπόν το κομμάτι της διαχείρισης, του αυτοματισμού και του troubleshooting, στην ουσία μέσω του dashboard, του MSP RMM, μπορούμε πάρα πολύ εύκολα και γρήγορα να έχουμε μία εικόνα του περιβάλλοντος του πελάτη μας και να διαχειριστούμε πολύ εύκολα, ανάλογα με το ποιον πελάτη αφορά, οποιοδήποτε πρόβλημα υπάρχει. Μπορούμε να διαχειριστούμε το κομμάτι του patching, του antivirus, του backup, της συντήρησης, του proactive monitoring γενικότερα, του δικτύου του πελάτη μας. Να παρακολουθούμε τις συσκευές του δικτύου, όπως routers, switches, firewalls, access points κτλ. Να κάνουμε χρήση του remote background monitoring, χωρίς να ενοχλούμε τον χρήστη, ο οποίος εκείνη τη στιγμή μπορεί να εργάζεται και να κάνει κάποια συγκεκριμένη δουλειά. Οπότε εμείς από πίσω να τρέχουμε τις εντολές που θέλουμε για να προχωράμε και εμείς στη δική μας εργασία αντίστοιχα. Και φυσικά μας δίνει τη δυνατότητα όλο αυτό να το κάνουμε remotely, δηλαδή να εξυπηρετούμε τον πελάτη μας remotely, χωρίς να χρειάζεται απαραίτητα να πηγαίνουμε από εκεί. Κάτι το οποίο φυσικά μας βοηθά στην εξοικονόμηση χρόνου και χρήματος. Και φυσικά δίνει αξία στην υπηρεσία που παρέχουμε στον πελάτη μας, κάνοντας χρήση όλων αυτών των εργαλείων. Next. Όσον αφορά τώρα το κομμάτι της ευελιξίας, στην ουσία η συγκεκριμένη πλατφόρμα δίνει τη δυνατότητα να πληρώνουμε ή και ο πελάτης ο ίδιος να χρεώνεται κάθε μήνα μόνο την χρήση της πλατφόρμας την οποία έχουμε κάνει. Μέσω του dashboard μας δίνει τη δυνατότητα να δούμε μέσω του reporting βασικά πόσο έχουν απασχοληθεί οι τεχνικοί μας για ένα συγκεκριμένο πελάτη, να κάνουμε customize τις ανάγκες του πελάτη μας και βάσει αυτού να παρέχουμε την συγκεκριμένη τεχνική υποστήριξη και φυσικά η Solarwinds μας βοηθά μέσω διαφόρων εργαλείων που έχει, αλλά και μέσω του community που διαθέτει, αλλά και των δωρεάν courses, σε κάποιες έξυπνους, θα λέγαμε, τρόπους στην εξυπηρέτηση των πελατών μας και στο πώς θα μπορούμε να δείξουμε ακόμα μεγαλύτερη ευελιξία στο κομμάτι αυτό. Next, please. Thank you. Τώρα, στο κομμάτι της ασφάλειας, η Solarwinds έχει φροντίσει, αν θα μπορούσαμε να το πούμε, να καλύψει διάφορα κομμάτια. Εκτός από το antivirus, λοιπόν, που αναφέραμε προηγουμένως, στο κομμάτι του EDR, για το οποίο θα μιλήσουμε στη συνέχεια, έχει κάνει τη συνεργασία με τη Sentinel One, οπότε έτσι διασφαλίζει το κομμάτι της ασφάλειας των endpoints στην ουσία. Μετά, με το Web Protection δίνει τη δυνατότητα, εκτός από το να εντοπίζουμε το malware, phishing, τα οποία αναφέραμε και προηγουμένως, να τσεκάρετε και να γνωρίζει και ο πελάτης σας φυσικά τη χρήση του ίντερνετ που γίνεται μέσα στην εταιρεία και το bandwidth, και επίσης να προστατεύετε τους χρήστες από sites και γενικότερα σημεία στο διαδίκτυο, τα οποία θα μπορούσαν να προκαλέσουν το γνωστό data breach σε όλους μας. Και το κομμάτι του Risk Intelligence που αναφέραμε και στην αρχή, όπως στην ουσία έχουμε την εικόνα των ευαίσθητων, του είδους μάλλον του τύπου των δεδομένων και το κατά πόσο είναι ευαίσθητα ή όχι, τα οποία μπορεί να έχει ο πελάτης μας αποθηκευμένα μέσα στο δίκτυό του. Francesco, you can start now with the EDR, if you wish.
Thank you very much, Nefali, also for providing a great overview of our platforms, which is actually the whole portfolio that Solarwinds MSP is offering. And today we want to focalize a bit more on the endpoint detection and response part. I'd like to introduce myself a bit more in depth. So my name is Francesco Di Bartolo. I'm Director MSP here at Solarwinds MSP for the distribution business. Me and together with my team, we're making sure that all our distributors in Europe and such as authority are getting the best support that we can provide by collecting insights from you guys as being our customers in order to provide more better services, more product functionalities, and make your life easier by leveraging our products. I've joined the company, you probably know the old names GFI Max, which was a branch of GFI in 2014. I've been in the IT industry and sales for now nearly 17 years, working in different countries of Europe. Been working with distribution for more than 10 years. And myself, I'm based in Germany, in Hamburg, in the north. So that's about me. So without stealing more of your time about this interesting topic today, I would like to go straight to the EDR topic. And when we are talking about EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response, it's actually part of the story that we call a layered security. So Nefeli did a great job in outlining our product portfolio that you saw we have the platforms that provide monitoring capabilities, the patch management, the backup, the antivirus, the traditional antivirus. And all these items are part of a security story, right? Such as EDR, which is the topic that we are going to dive in a bit more deeper today. Now, often we see that the attacks are on the rise. So we know that ransomware is affecting all our lives in the IT environment. Especially in 2018, we saw more than 33.4% of increase in attacks across all the IT industry. And often we don't talk about the risk, but we talk mainly about the products that we need to sell, right? So, but we should change our approach. We should not talk only about security, but we should talk with our customers about the risks. Make it clear to him that if he has not enough protection or not enough layered security, then he might lose data, which can also cause that he can shut down his business, right? So data has become today our most valuable asset in our company. And what we have thought in the past that, hackers are mainly attacking big companies or governments or, big industries with sensitive data, this has shifted now. So I have here a statistics that provides you some insights on who is actually the most, company at risk. Now, if we look at education, right, schools, university, they're getting only 6% of the attack. The government, which we always think, the NSA and all this other stuff, that's actually down to 8%. But if we look more at the healthcare and the business section, these are the most targeted sectors from our hackers. Why is it that way? Because an MSP such as you are or a healthcare company, they have a lot of personal information, a lot of data from individuals, right? That if myself am a hacker and I would attack somebody, I would attack those guys that have the most important data at one place. So we see more and more MSPs getting affected by ransomware because of not having enough protection or have maybe underestimated the urgency to provide more in-depth security. And therefore, this category is pretty much at risk, right, in the industry. Also, when you speak to your customers, you should classify them in 3 different stages, right? So there are low-risk customers that are actually customers that are no risk to be targeted because they have limited amount of data, of personal data. There are medium type of risk customers. These are customers that have some attractive data, they have reasonable partner sizes under their customer base, and there are also high-risk data, right? So high-risk customers could be an MSP, it could be a healthcare industry. So they have a lot of data, personal data, that if they lose those data, it is a big problem, not only for them as a company, but also for all the other companies that are underneath them. And we need to start talking with our customers about having a certain approach, right? So when talking to the customers, we need to speak about the target. First of all, what is the most critical data that this customer has? Is it personal data? Is it customer related data, right? And we need to assess the security. So we need to define the strategy about the data assessment and the process that they have today. So is this enough to prevent attacks? What happens if I get attacked? Do I have enough power in my company that I can put everything back as it was before I was getting attacked within a very short time frame? We need to align the services. Customers, they do trust you as being an MSP, as being their virtual IT CTO, right? Let's call it like this, where you say you need to have these type of measurements in order to be protected. And we know there's no 100% protection, but at least you can provide as much protection as possible to make it so difficult to get attacked that even if this is happening, you have all pieces of the puzzles from the layered security concept, which could be a firewall, a backup, mail security, antivirus, patch management, so that even if something happens, you have enough power in place to roll back and make the customer work again within a short time frame, right? Because more they stay offline, more it is expensive, and more that everybody is losing money, right? The other thing is that you need to start productize this. So as I mentioned before, you need to define the solutions that you need to put in place. So does the customer have updated systems? Yes. Okay, then we can check this. Do we have a backup solution? Yes, cool. Everybody has a backup solution, but are we also testing our restores on the backup solutions? Probably not. Not everybody is doing backup and restore tests. So this is something that you should implement as well as a layered security approach. And then you need to make these repeatable process across all your customers, right? It's not just enough to equip one customer with all these benefits and protection, but you need to try to standardize your approach across all your customers. Because what is happening is that customers are getting more evolved. Customers read the news, customers read IT magazines, and they pick something up, right? And if you are not providing them with the next steps that they need to take during this journey, what might happen is that this customer is going to leave you and reach out to another company where he can probably get more satisfaction in terms of security services, right? And mainly what we want to talk today is actually the SolarWinds Endpoint Detection and Response, which is part of our layered security story. It's a module that is available inside the RMM technology, and it's also inside the N-Central platform, so across both platforms. So you can leverage this functionality if you're using one of these platforms. On N-Central, it's integrated, but I will leave this for Jonathan, who is going to show us the product after my session. What is actually EDR? That's the way we call it. EDR is a solution that SolarWinds has integrated into their portfolio. It's based on the world-class technology Sentinel 1, and it's nothing more than an antivirus, but it's a very smart and powerful antivirus, right? Because traditional antiviruses, as you know, they're based on updates, right? So you need to run an update process every day. It gets the scans, it gets the new patterns, it updates the platform, and then you are protected for the next 24 hours, right? But in order to receive an update, you need to make sure that somewhere in the world something has happened so that the guys from the antivirus company can create their new update and they can implement it, right? So there's a reaction after something has happened. Sentinel-1 or EDR is completely different. It is update-less technology. It's based on artificial intelligence, and it just protects you also against a numerous amount of other threats that we're seeing. For example, browser codes, codes that are hidden in the browser, or file-less attacks, so not always you need a file to get infected, but there are also some technology that will allow you to get harmed if you are even not clicking on a file. It saves time when you need to neutralize it, because it learns also from your behavior based on how you're using the product and how you're using your computer. It learns patterns and makes sure that it prevents you from doing bad things and get harmed, right? But the most powerful thing that EDR is offering is a rollback functionality. And this is something that it's not offered by everybody. So it means that if you're getting affected, if you're getting infected and your machine is completely blocked, so usually what you would do is probably run a backup, restart the machine, or in worst cases, and you know this is happening, some people are also paying the very expensive Bitcoin fees. Right, so with EDR, you have the possibility to roll back in the majority of the cases and go to that stage back where it was before even getting attacked. Now, there are three different propositions why you should go to EDR, right? So first of all, it's because it has the right amount of features. So it protects you against executables, against fileless files on documents, browser scripts. There are numerous amount of features that it offers you more in comparison with a traditional antivirus. It is very good priced. So we're not talking about just the technology, but it's a service that you need to receive, right? Because having just a product but not being able to use it or not managing it properly is not solving the equation. So you need somebody that's providing you a service around this, right? And it is the right model, right? As every product from our side, it's monthly billable, it's pay as you grow. You can start small and then over time you grow. So if you add licenses, you pay more. You can remove licenses, you pay less. And it's not an annual prepaid, right? It's monthly payment, which is also during this kind of period, it's probably even the most interesting approach. I've also prepared a small calculation on the ROI, on the return on investment. So let's assume that we have a customer that has 25 users, and 2 of those devices have been affected, right? So they have been affected by ransomware, they're completely locked. And what is happening is that we need to spend like 33 hours per device to remediate the problem, right? Meaning that we need to disconnect everything from the network, we need to reinstall the operation systems, we need to run our backups, to restore our backups. It's a big server, right? It takes time. And we're charging a roughly average of $125 per hour, right? This makes $4,125 of labor cost. The remediation cost that we're selling to our customer is like $8,250 because it's ×2. And then if you would have Sentinel 1, you would have taken this for $200 per site per customer. Meaning that with a rollback functionality that you're going to see very, very shortly, it is taking you only $0.27 of remediation cost because mainly it's handled by automation or just click a button, which is going to be very fine. And you're saving $249 per hours of internal costs, which you can reinvest in your customers' security. Now, that's enough from my side, and I would like to hand it over to Jonathan because he can show you the product and then you will understand a bit more how powerful the solution is that we're going to present today. Jonathan, I changed the screen over to you and give you presenter mode.
Okay, thank you, Francesco. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all can hear me okay. I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment. Hopefully I share the right screen. Which one is screen number 1? Right. Can I just get confirmation that that screen is, you can view it okay?
We can see your OneNote.
OneNote, okay, perfect. Now, I wasn't going to go and show you any slides because I think we've probably shown you enough slides for just now, but this one's actually a really, really good slide. So I just wanted to share this just to give you a bit of background as to how a threat gets onto your machine, because it's important to be able to know this, because clients will expect that you're able to offer them, I say, the most advanced level of protection you possibly can do. And the way that we would potentially suggest that would be to layer security, as Francesco just mentioned. Now, this is a real life example called Ryuk ransomware. Now, originally it starts off as an email, as most of these threats do. So statistically, 34% of attacks that evade detection usually originate through email. Okay, so the very, very first layer of protection would be to have some sort of mail filtering process in place to help stop those types of attacks before they get to the endpoint. Okay, so nearly always it requires some form of user interaction. So user downloads a file, okay, they open it up and it pops up and it says, hey, there's a macro on this Word document. Do you want to run this? Now, I'm guilty of this. Your guys are probably guilty of this. Francesco will be guilty of this. You'll click to enable the macro, okay, unbeknown to yourself that that's actually going to call a PowerShell script. And that PowerShell script is going to install a tool called Emotet. Now, the way that this works is Emotet will communicate, okay, back to some sort of control center. So it's like a C2 control center where the hackers or the people who write the ransomware code will be evaluating who's clicked on the link, who's got Emotet installed on the device, and they'll make a decision to install a tool called TrickBot in this case. Now, TrickBot will register itself as a persistent piece of software on the device, so it doesn't matter if it's shut down, it's restarted. That information will still be gathered by TrickBot, and it'll be passed back to the control center. Now, at this stage, whoever's running the ransomware can have a couple of different choices. Okay, they will either encrypt your user's machine and exfiltrate the data, or they will potentially continue to monitor the information that's collected by TrickBot, and they will use that to laterally spread across your network. Okay, tools like Mimikaz, there's lots of ways to gather passwords, to gather data, to gather hashes, which can be used to elevate permissions of the scripts that they run to domain administrators, so they can move across your network. Now, what will happen is you'll end up coming in one morning and your entire network will be down. Okay, it'll be held to ransom, and what they're doing now is quite clever. Okay, so they actually have evolved from just hijacking information and requesting it for money. Hackers and ransomware writers are now completely aware of the fact that you all have off-site backups, so no one's paying the ransom. They're just restoring the data from backup. So they're actually uploading personal identifiable information, and they're sending you a copy of some of the files. So they're saying, hey, pay the ransomware to decrypt your files, or we're going to sell this to the dark web, or we're going to release this, and then your customers are going to lose faith because that personal identifiable information has been leaked to the cloud. Okay, so that's a normal typical attack chain. Now you'll see there's lots of different network layers that you could potentially prevent. Okay, now this is something we can share if you want, but if I just scroll up a little bit, this one here. This one is talking about the layers of security that SolarWinds offer. So I'll just touch on this a little bit. Now, AV, so Bitdefender and Endpoint Detection, sit on the endpoint. Okay, so that protects your customer's data, but that's just one layer. Okay, so making sure that your devices are regularly patched. Okay, that's the second layer. User training is very, very important. Nobody does that. Okay, so no one spends time with the customers to say, look, this is how to spot an email that's not legitimate. No one talks about why you shouldn't use the same password that you use for your Hotmail account in 1997 for your Office 365 account. Okay, because if it's hacked on Hotmail, there's a good chance they're going to be able to use your password and get into your Office 365 account, and then they can do some serious damage from within there as well. So password management's a big one. Two-factor authentication, if you can two-factor anything, do it. Okay, it's there to help protect you. And at the very, very top layer, you've got things like mail protection and web filtering. Okay, so if you implemented only just two of those processes, whether it be EDR and mail protection, you'd stand a much better chance of minimizing the chance of a threat like this happening. Okay, because if you've got web protection, that persistent connection that reaches back out to the control center, that's going to be blocked because we're going to know that that's a malicious URL or it's a malicious IP address or it's unknown, so it's potentially blocked. Now, I didn't want to touch on any other slides, so that'll be me slide free from now on. You'll be glad to hear. I'm hoping you can all understand me. I know that I've got a Scottish accent and I might be talking a little bit too quickly, so I will try and slow down just a little bit. Okay, so SolarWinds also has the Success Center, okay, which you guys should all have access to, being RMM customers or N-Central customers. We have lots of documentation and videos on how to sell next generation antivirus, how to position this against traditional antivirus, and why we're offering this to clients before it's fully integrated into RMM. And the main reason for that is because around about 400,000 new variants of malware are released every single day. And it's impossible for traditional antiviruses to keep up. Okay, so the way that this works, if you are infected with ransomware, you will call Bitdefender, you will call ESET, Symantec, Sophos, you will call your AV company. They will send or they will initiate a remote connection onto your endpoint, and they will try and identify how that threat evaded detection. Okay, so they'll get the threat, they'll upload it to their labs, and their labs will build definition files, which, as Francesco mentioned, will be downloaded probably every 3 hours. Okay, so your machine will download the latest definitions every 3 hours, and it'll want to scan your system to see if any of the files that exist on your system match their definitions. Okay, that's how traditional AV works. Now, Bitdefender will rely on traditional methods, but it also has behavioral analysis. So whenever a process starts up, Bitdefender will inject itself into that running process to identify if there's any malicious activities happening and kill and quarantine based on behavior. So it's not purely traditional AV. Sentinel-1 does that, and it does a lot more, a lot faster, and it's fully autonomous, which I'll go into as well. But these videos, they're available for you to watch at any time. So if at all in any doubt, we can show you where this information is. I'm going to pop into the Sentinel-1 dashboard now, or I run the risk of boring you all to death. So this is the Sentinel-1 main page. Okay, so this is the main dashboard. What you'll see at the very, very first page is how many unresolved threats are currently across your entire estate of devices. Now, that might seem like an awful lot, 27, and it probably is an awful lot, but this is a demo environment. Okay, so just to give you an idea on what this potentially might look like. Any threats that are mitigated are killed and quarantined. They're not active. There's no real threat to data with anything that's been mitigated. Okay, but it's your job as a technician to go into the platform, find any threats that are mitigated, and just analyze what they've actually done. So in this case, okay, this file here, freedonuts.cmd, I mean, I don't know who wouldn't click on that. It's not at all tempting. This was detected by our static engine, okay, based on the reputation. So similar to traditional antivirus, this hash file is known as a malicious file, so it would have been killed and quarantined straight away. Okay, so we're quite happy that that's no longer an issue. We will mark that as resolved, and by marking it as resolved, it would then be removed from this page. Okay, anything that's active threat, now that's going to be your priority, okay, because that's a threat that Sentinel-1 has not killed and quarantined, and it remains on the endpoint, potentially spreading. Okay, so they're going to be your priority. Now, we have quite a lot of active threats on the network just now because we have deployed Sentinel-1 into detect mode only. So I'm going to touch on that in a second. So if I go into my policies, there's two different forms of installation. There's protect and there's detect. Okay, so protect will automatically kill and quarantine. Say in a couple of months' time, you're using Sentinel-1 and you're like, my God, this tool is amazing. It doesn't get anything wrong. Anything that it detects is a definite threat. Okay, you can get to the stage where you completely automate the kill and the quarantine, the remediation, and the rollback of files automatically. Okay, but until you're completely confident that we are making the right decision every time, just leave that to your technicians to look over it, and then they can remediate and roll back if they need to. Now, for the benefits of installation for the first time, you may well want to put this into detect mode. So detect mode will simply alert the user to the fact that there's a suspicious file on the machine, but it won't stop the process from running. So if you've got any older customers or customers who are using legacy software, perhaps that wasn't written with the cleanest of code, Sentinel-1 might detect that and say, hey, we think this is an issue. Okay, we don't want to stop their applications from running because they're going to be on the phone to you, annoyed that you've installed a new antivirus. Okay, so pop it into detect mode. After a couple of days, we'll have learned what's important for you, and then you can just flick it to protect mode, and we will kill and quarantine files based on behaviors, okay, that aren't your customers' applications, etc. There's a couple of cool features here as well. So this is another feature that you can take full advantage of, and it's a disconnection from the network. So whenever I speak to any security providers, I say to them, look, what do you do if you find a threat on your network? And 99 times out of 100, the first thing they do is they disconnect the device. So they pull the Cat5 cable out or the Cat6 cable out to stop the risk of that threat spreading. Sentinel-1 can do that for you. Now, we will only do that in the event that we cannot kill and quarantine that file. So if you have a polymorphic malware attack and the code is changing and we cannot get hold of the process to kill and quarantine it for whatever reason, we would then take that as an opportunity to say, right, to stop that threat from spreading, we're going to use Windows Firewall to block all inbound and outbound port access. So that machine is pretty much off the network. There's no outbound traffic, there's no inbound traffic. The only traffic that that machine will receive and that will be able to send is a connection to Sentinel-1. So you can do your administration, you can do your due diligence to make sure that that device is clean before you reconnect it back to the network. Okay, so we will help you with that. We also have some cool functions here as well. So we've got scan new agents. Now, traditional antivirus, as you'll be well aware, requires or wants to deep scan your system. It wants to quick scan your system on a daily basis. Okay, so Bitdefender is no different. You have those configurational options in the policies in RMM and in Central that you can choose to run those scans and schedule them. You will be delighted to hear that Sentinel-1 does not do deep scans. It does not do quick scans. Therefore, the chances of you getting a phone call from an end user who's experiencing performance issues is pretty much gone with Sentinel-1. The reason we don't need to do scans is because we don't have definition files. Okay, so we don't work the same way as a traditional antivirus does. You can initiate a scan when we first deploy the agent. That's entirely up to you. And you can initiate a scan at any point, but we don't schedule them like you do with traditional AV. Now, these two options are very, very important, Anti-Tamper and Snapshot. Now, before I go into those, I'm just going to show you a sort of pre-recorded video of a rollback situation that Francesco mentioned. So you possibly all have had customers who are infected by ransomware. Okay, I'm just going to show you how that happens and what it looks like from an end user's perspective. Now, the first things first, we've got this installed in protect mode, which should mean it'll kill and quarantine the file. So we're going to take a USB drive and we're going to take a threat and we're going to paste it into the desktop. Okay, and as you'd expect, before that process has been executed, we have detected that process as a threat and we have killed and quarantined it, hence why the file is now removed from the system. Okay, from the Sentinel-1 platform point of view, we'll be see that threat and you'll see there's a green box next to it which tells us it's been mitigated. Okay, so it's not an active issue, so it's not a huge priority for your technicians to go into this. If you look on the right-hand side, this actually shows what we call a visual indicator. So I've paused that for a second. These visual indicators are taken from a well-known sort of security company called MITRE ATT&CK. Or MITRE Defense, it's one of the two. I think it's both of them actually. So we use their technology to identify what hackers are doing, how they're potentially bypassing traditional AVs, and what kind of stealth-like commands are they using. And if we see something that's being used or potentially being used as a form of attack, we will block that and we will pass that information back to the dashboard as we have in this case. I will touch on this in a little bit more in the analyze section in a moment. What we're going to do is we're going to show you this threat, but we're going to show you it as it would work if you were using a we're going to show you as if you were using it in detect-only mode. So detect-only mode, as I talked about earlier, is simply going to monitor what's happening. It's not going to kill, it's not going to quarantine like we just witnessed a second or two ago. So if we go back to the endpoint and we take that same file, okay, and we copy it across, Sentinel-1 is going to say, oh, be careful, we think there's a threat here, and your end user is going to do what any end user will do and just ignore that message, and they're going to run that, or they're going to open up that PDF document, which is actually a command line script or a PowerShell script. Okay, that PowerShell script is going to run and it's going to encrypt the user's hard drive. Okay, so you'll see the files on the right-hand side are encrypted, and soon enough the desktop will be removed as well. Now, we're going to get a lovely little disclaimer saying here your files have been ransomed. You'll see that they've not included the Greek language, which was very kind of them, or perhaps they have, I'm just not reading it. And at this point, your customer's going to phone you up and they're going to be kicking and screaming because they've just been hit with a ransomware attack. Now, 80% of customers that have a security breach end up leaving their MSP. Okay, so there's a high risk to your revenue if your customer's data is lost. Okay, in this case, they phone you up. Okay, you go into the Sentinel-1 dashboard, and what you'll get is the option to go in and remediate this. Okay, so remediating rollback. Now, I should point out that this is not speeded up, so I'm going to pause that for a second. This is real time, so Sentinel-1 has the ability to do this between 1 and 30 seconds. Okay, so we're going to roll back the threat. We're going to kill and quarantine any processes that are running. We're going to remove any files that were created, and we're going to recover any files that were modified. And within a few seconds, that device is back to the way it was prior to the ransomware attack. Now, the way that this works, and I'll just explain this in a moment, is using volume shadow copies. So these two options are very important for that reason. This option here turns the snapshots on. So we're not telling VSS to be enabled. That's something that you will have to enable yourselves. All we are doing is telling Microsoft to take a copy of that data and store it aside so that if we ever need to, we can recover that data using our rollbacks. Okay, and this is probably one of the most important options. If you write malware or if you're a hacker, the two things you're going to want to do, okay, you're going to want to destroy VSS, because if you encrypt or destroy VSS, that customer has less likely to be able to recover that data, so more likely to pay your ransom. They will also try and uninstall your AV, because if there's nothing there to stop that threat from running, they can cause significant damage. Okay, now Sentinel-1 are aware of this fact. So by enabling an anti-tamper option, we basically stop the VSS from being encrypted because we've already pre-encrypted the application rollback snapshot. We also stop end users or malicious processes uninstalling Sentinel-1. It has to be done from the console. Now, RMM, you can add a check-in, and the check will tell you if your rollback, application rollback's been successfully created. And if it has, the check will pass. If it hasn't, the check will fail. Now, you'll notice that I'm doing this from two separate dashboards. This is my RMM. I can use the EDR deployment script to deploy Sentinel-1 from RMM, and I can monitor it from RMM as well. But it is essentially two separate platforms just now. There will be plans, there are plans, and they're well in the way. This should be fully integrated into the RMM dashboard around September. It's already integrated into the N-Central dashboard. Okay, so they were basically testing it out, and then RMM will get that in around about September when it should be fully integrated. We also have some other cool functions in here as well. So these are our detecting engines. So if you ever ask Sentinel-1 directly, what is the best feature about your platform? You'd have to expect them to say, hey, rollback's the best thing in the world. Okay, but they won't say that. They actually will tell you that the dynamic behavioral tracking is their best feature. Okay, so we've got a couple of engines before this. We've got reputation. Okay, so we check the file. Is it a known threat? We check that against Virus Total, which is a company that has about 80 antivirus companies all feeding back into it. So we're using the collective intelligence of around 80 antiviruses to decide if a file that we're seeing for the first time is malicious. If it is, we block it. If the file is not considered to be malicious based on reputation, Sentinel-1 has two detecting engines that will run pre-execution. So you take a file, you drop it from a USB drive onto the machine. Okay, it'll be analyzed by these static AI engines. Now they have about 100,000 pieces of information that they will look for. If something matches it, then again, we will block it. At this point, okay, we don't consider the file to be an immediate threat. So the user executes that file, it starts a running process, Sentinel-1 injects itself into that running process, and we analyze exactly what each process is doing, and we will be able to tell you exactly what that file or that process is up to. Now, think of that as like a black box on a helicopter or a black box on an airplane. If that plane crashes or the helicopter goes down, everybody wants to know what the black box data said. So why did this happen? How did this happen? What was the result of this, and how can we learn from that? This is exactly what dynamic behavioral tracking will do. It's not too dissimilar to any of these other processes as well, which kind of Francesco mentioned. Fileless malware is a big one. So living on the land, hackers are completely aware of the fact that traditional AV requires a file to be on the system for it to be scanned. Okay, so they will execute a threat in memory. So they'll run PowerShell. Okay, so there's no file in the system, but there's a PowerShell script. And if you can hide your execution in PowerShell, you can pretty much do whatever you like, and you can spread across the network fairly easily. There's lots of videos online on YouTube that tells you how to do that. Okay, so traditional AVs don't detect that at all. So a more advanced endpoint detection tool will do. Okay, so I'm going to quickly touch on a few other things. I know that I'm running kind of low on time, so apologies. A few things that you don't get with your traditional AV, such as Bitdefender, is firewall control. So that's quite important now with coronavirus, with COVID, things like that are causing sort of completely different changes in how companies work. They usually all sit behind a corporate firewall or some sort of WatchGuard firewall or something like that, which gives them that level of protection. When you're at home and you're working from home, you don't have that same level of protection. So Sentinel-1 will give you an opportunity to utilize Windows Firewall, so you have full control over your endpoints firewalls from within here. We also do device control. Okay, so I've got my rules set up to block all mass storage devices. So I'm going to plug my USB device into this now. Now you won't see that, but it's popped up on my second monitor telling me that it's blocked. If I go into the activity log, you'll see real-time USB drive has been blocked. Okay, now if I'm the CEO or the managing director and I phone you up in a hurry and I say, look, I'm waiting to do a presentation, I've plugged my USB drive in and it's blocked. Okay, your technician just goes, okay, allow. And by clicking on allow, that USB drive will be allowed. Okay, if I go to the pub at lunchtime and I find the USB drive and I plug it in, I'll be back on the phone to my IT saying, hey, I found this USB drive, I want to know what's on it. I've plugged it in and it's blocked. And you can say, oh, don't plug that drive in if you've just found it. Okay, it has to be authorized by IT first, that type of stuff. Okay, so you have that granular level of control. We'll quickly pop into the Analyze tab and we'll show you some of the pretty cool stuff that the black box that I was telling you about shows. So if we just click on a random one, what you'll see here is the data that's been harvested by Sentinel-1 engine. Now, I should point out that the engine that's installed does not require an internet access. Okay, the only one of our engines that requires an internet access is the reputational check, which will check this hash value against these two websites. Okay, if it's a known threat, it's blocked. If it's not a known threat, it's allowed through. That's the only one of our only one of our engines that requires a connection to the cloud. As and when it starts to execute, so in this case, you'll see here, there's an attack overview. So 60 files were modified. So 59 were created and 1 was modified. In this case, there was no outbound connections made to a control center or to a foreign IP address. There's no registry entries. Okay, so there's no registry hacks, and 188 processes were created as a result of this. Now you can start going into the overview, and this will show you, hey, this was the original process that spawned. Okay, and what that did was that modified these files. Okay, and it created these secondary processes. You can click on any of the processes that are created, and you can see what that process did or what files were modified as a result of it. If your client says to you, I want a report of all the files that were infected, here's all the files that were infected. Okay, and if you think to yourself, right, that's a legitimate threat, as we did in this case, you just click on rollback. We successfully initiated that rollback, and it took the machine back to the status it was in prior to that attack on the machine. Okay, but you get loads of cool information. All that's left is you to mark that as resolved and job done. If this is a false positive, okay, so there's not an actual threat, mark it as benign, and that adds an exclusion into the whitelist. Okay, so we won't stop that software from running again in the future. We also do application scanning. which is a form of vulnerability assessment tool. So we'll tell you what software is installed on the machine and if it's got a vulnerability. So it's similar to patch management. We also do an activity log, which is all your user audit reports, who's done what, when. All that information is collected and gathered and stored for up to a year. And we also have reports as well. So the reports can be scheduled manually, they can be scheduled automatically. They are branded with Sentinel-1, okay, but that's not a bad thing. If you imagine for 1 minute that one of your clients decides that they want to do a bit of research in regards to Sentinel-1, they will realize quite quickly, okay, that they have got the same antivirus as probably 4 of the world's largest, biggest companies. Okay, so America has something called the Fortune 500, which is the 500 biggest companies in the US. Out of the top 10, I think majority of them are using Sentinel-1 as their AV company. Okay, so that just shows you the faith that the sort of trillion-dollar companies have got in this product. Okay, companies who have got huge security budgets, they choose to partner with Sentinel-1 because of the level of protection. You look at Gartner and Sentinel-1's regularly ranked as probably one of the highest achieving AV companies available right now. Okay, so we're delighted to be able to bring this to market. Okay, because generally speaking, most managed service providers don't have the financial power to be able to go to Sentinel-1 directly and buy this. Okay, because you need to have thousands of licenses and you have to sign up for a 3-year commitment. Okay, so most MSPs that we speak to don't have that buying power. SolarWinds does. So we have taken that decision to partner up with Sentinel-1. And as a result of that, we can buy hundreds of thousands of licenses. Therefore, our discount to use is actually cheaper than it would be if you bought directly. It's a lot cheaper than it would be if you bought directly from Sentinel-1. Okay, so I think no one's actually told me that I'm running out of time, but I've got a feeling that I'm probably running out of time. So I think I've shown you everything that I need to touch on. Hopefully you found that beneficial. Is there any questions at all that came in during that and I missed them?
No, so far there are no questions. Like to remind everybody that if you have any questions, please use the chat box. If you feel more comfortable in writing in Greek, you can also do so, and we have Nefeli that will help us with translation. But yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, we'll give it a few minutes and see if any questions come in. As I say, if you do want to get more information yourself, you should all have access to this page. It's the Success Center, so success.solarwinds MSP. We have the MSP Institute. In the MSP Institute, there's lots of documentation and videos in regards to endpoint detection. We also have security webinars that we have pre-recorded that you guys can join as well. So all these pre-recorded webinars, there's one specifically in regards to security, and this is a guy called Gil Langston. So he's an American guy who's been product manager for a few companies who do AV. So we've actually taken him on board internally, and he does our security webinars. So he's a really, really good guy. He talks about the attacking the chain, which is what I've taken some screenshots from. This is all available for you guys to use. It's all in English, but it's all available for you guys to use. So if you're not using it, you are missing out. It's completely free of charge to use, so make sure you do take advantage of that. I always think if there's no questions that I've covered the product well enough, or my dulcet Scottish tone has put you all to sleep. One of the two.
I think everybody is going with the first one, Jonathan. So everybody is excited about the rollback and the product itself, and probably need a couple of minutes to elaborate this. Nefeli, do you want to add something?
No, I'm okay from my side as well. I believe if everyone needs anything, they can reach me in my email or via phone. So we are okay on that.
Perfect. Then, as there are no more questions, I would like to thank everybody for joining the session today, for Authology to giving the chance to speak to you guys, and to Jonathan to take us through the demo session. So if you have any questions, reach out to Authology. Thanks very much, and looking forward to speak to you very soon.
Thanks very much, everyone, for listening to us.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.